We have Congressman John Rose, and he's getting his food probably. We have State Senator Rusty Crowe. We have State Representatives Bud Halsey and Monty Fritz. We have SEC Committeewoman Anita Taylor and SEC Committeeman Dr. Todd Fowler. We have Washington County Mayor Joe Grandy. Washington County Commissioners Greg Matherly, Freddie Malone, Jim Wheeler, Roger Barrett, well, he's not elected yet, and Josh Edens. Washington County Clerk Cheryl Story. Circuit Court Judge Suzanne Cook. General Sessions Court Judges Janet Hardin, Jonathan Minka, and Judge Will Monk. Public Defender Melanie Sellers. Johnson City School Board Dr. Ginger Carter, Tom Hager, and Celia Martin. Carter County Commissioner Dr. Charlene Thomas. It's weird to read yourself, but I'm Chair Danielle Goodrich of the Washington County Republican Party. Johnson County Republican Party Chair Randy Danderand. Tennessee Federated Republican Women President Sharon Boring. Washington County Federated Republican Women President Brenda Frizzell. And did I miss any of our dignitaries? So we have Michael Morlock, we have Nick Castle. All right, I think that, did we miss anybody else? Oh, Jessica Means, we have a Sullivan County Commissioner. All righty, and I know Miss Marlowe was finishing up her meal here, but I'm gonna have her come up and introduce Rep. Tim Burchett. Yep, you come up. You can sit.
You gave away my secret. I was going to introduce Tim Burchett.
You can still do that.
You know, Tim, if you were down at Mar-a-Lago, we might have to call you Burchett. I got called out on that a little earlier. I don't know, last year? No, today. I have only met Tim Burchett. Burchett? How's the president say it? Burchett. Dadgummit. By the way, I think I was saying dadgummit before you were. Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, Tim, so maybe I started that. And dadgummit and gosh darn it and all those other things. But I've got to tell you, I've watched you from afar, and I've been so proud of you. And not even knowing that you used to go to school with a guy that maybe got a kiss on the cheek when we were in 12th grade. Danny Crutchfield, he told me this story. He goes, I know a guy that dated you. Tell me if this is true. And most of the time I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about. But you're right, Danny Crutchfield is a good boy. So meeting him in person has really been great because I've watched how he fights all the time for our country and is fearless in how he does it. And I've got to say that it takes one man to be able to do that can change and create a whole movement, right? So just keep creating a movement, Mr. Tim. That's much safer for me to call you. So I'm just so proud to be here today to be able to not only meet you and sit next to you and let you tease me a lot, but to introduce you now to this incredible crowd that's going to be eating and chewing while you're here, but they might still hear you. Have a feeling. Mr. Burchett, come up here.
She asked me how the president pronounces my name, and I guess it's any way he wants to. He's a dadgum president. But the first time I ever heard him say my name in public was at a NASCAR event on the White House lawn, and they had a car down front. And of course, those kids in Washington, they didn't know which end the gas went in and which end the exhaust came out of. So I was explaining to some of the staffers about it. You know, NASCAR being a redneck, I could explain all that stuff and the harness they had since Dale Earnhardt got killed. And so during the ceremony, he had all the NASCAR guys out there and Roger Penske was there. I was really wanted to meet him. And then he said, "Hey, I got some of my friends here from Congress." You know, I figured he'd introduce Jim Jordan and all the big shots, you know, and this is my first year in Congress. And I was sitting in the second row behind the Secretary of Transportation and some other guy, I can't remember who he was. And he goes, Tim Burchett, where are you, Tim? And I looked around, I go, "What in the world?" And I go, "Right here, Mr. B." He goes, "There you are. You know something about this sport, don't you, buddy?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And then then my phone started going off. Everybody, my buddies all over the country I was in school with. And I knew right then that what the people in the 2nd District already knew, that those folks were represented by redneck. So, and then the president, of course, it was crazy because he's always doing stuff like this. You know, you see him, he stops the limo and stuff, and he gets out and talks to the police officers. I mean, that's real. That is real. It drives Secret Service crazy. And he said, he was sitting up there, and I thought, what's he going now? Because the worst job in Washington, D.C. would have to be the guy that does his teleprompter, you know, because he just goes off cuff all the time like I am right now. And he says, he goes, "Hey, any of you guys from NASCAR, have you ever seen the Lincoln Bedroom?" And they're like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he says, "Well, come on, let's go." And of course, Secret Service just freaking out. This guy jumps out of the bushes beside me and he goes, "Red dog, red dog." And all I could think of was that the president does that kind of stuff so many times that they had to get a code word for it. So, but I love him. But anyway, I want to thank y'all for having me here. Marla, thank you for that warm introduction. I know you played a pretty big hand in getting RFK Jr. connected with the president, and we love that, so thank you. We are finally making America healthy again, and we're telling those foreign national corporations they can jam it. We're going to take charge of our own food supply. Look, I'll be brief. I know nobody woke up this morning and said, "Dadgum, I hope I get to hear from Tim Burchett today, and I hope he talks a long time." Did anybody do that in here? Anybody? No, hey, whoa. Hey. Save the line to the professionals in Congress, all right? Y'all are amateurs, okay? I just want you to be. But I will be brief. I was at an event one time, and I think Harshberger. Where are you, Diana? Diana, where are you? Right there, yeah. Diana, I think she was at this thing. So we're sitting there, and we were talking. I was thinking, man, this thing won't go very long. This will be great, you know? And of course, my wishes were thwarted because the young chairman said, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Before we have all our speakers come up, we're going to let every person in the room who's either running for office or thinking about running for office talk for 3 minutes." And I thought, dadgum. Because Marla, it's East Tennessee. Everybody in the dadgum room is running for office, all right? So, you know, you get to the dog catcher, the coroner, and you got everybody going through there. And I was like, man, I was never going to get up there to speak. And this one guy gets up, and he had an incredibly nice tattoo around his neck of a snake. And he says, he told his name, and he said, "This thing's gone on too dadgum long. I'm sitting down." He got a standing ovation. And the best part about that is, to this day, he's still in office. So I always remember that. So I'm going to try to keep it short. I got my guys here, Thomas and Marcus. Where y'all at? They're in the back there. Y'all, no, wait. Don't clap for them. Do not clap for them. I pay them too much money already. I don't need it. But I do want y'all to know they are single. They're relatively happy, and they have a pocket full of money. So if you've got a daughter, a granddaughter, or maybe an ex-wife that could take all that away from them, right there they are. I sort of got a Gone with the Wind rule on these things. You know, these things go on 4 hours. That's what Gone with the Wind was, I believe. I go to these things 4 hours, man. It's just too dadgum long, so I'm going to get on with it. I also see my friend Rusty Crowe. I saw him earlier. Rusty, thank you, brother. I served with Rusty in the state senate, the Rock as we called him, because he stood in place. He fought the income tax. He stood tall, and I'm honored to call him my friend. He's also a veteran, my daddy would come to the Senate floor, he'd always make sure to talk about my dad. I believe you lived on Okinawa, and Dad, as I was meeting with the ambassador from Japan, and he asked me, he said, "You ever been to Okinawa?" I said, "No." He said, "Any of your family members?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "My dad was there." And he said, "Really? When?" I said, "April 1st, 1945. And he said, he's like, "Oh." And I said, "Don't worry, dude, I don't hold a grudge." Now, if my dad was here, he did hold a grudge. And I know, let's see, who you here with? Let's see, Paul Bailey. Paul, you over there? Thank you, brother. I got on Paul earlier about I was catching a little glare off the top of his head. I told him that was a solar panel for a think tank, though, so he's good. He's good with it. See, I can say this stuff about these people because none of dadgum one of them can vote for me. It works out pretty well. I brought the only people that can vote for me with me, and I signed their checks. They better vote for me. My buddy Bob Patton. Bob, I served with Bob in the State House, and I was in the state. Bob, where are you at? Oh, I thought he snuck out. Bob writes all these dadgum books, and he's a prolific author, and he's just a all-around good guy. Bob, good seeing you. Jerome Cochran, former representative. Jerome, where are you at? Served with Jerome as well. You know, everybody just gets older that I served with. They get older, and I still look pretty good, I think. I'm not sure. My buddy Laura Wheeler's here. Laura, we were in Young Republicans together, and she looks just like she did in the turbulent 80s when we were running campaigns. Good seeing you, girl. Bud, where you at? That was your speech. We should have just let you do that, and we could all just gone home, buddy. It was from the heart, and it said what needed to be said. So God bless you, brother, and thank you for your great service to our state. Thank you, brother. Bobby Harshberger. Bobby, you're here as well. Where are you at, Bobby? Right there in the back. Thank you, Bobby. And, of course, I mentioned my friend Diana Harshberger, but let me tell you something, folks. Diana Harshberger is a conservative, and she's got incredible guts, and she stands up for this country, and you are very fortunate to have her, and I'm fortunate to call her my friend. We're in a Wednesday morning. It's kind of crazy in Washington, D.C., because there are a bunch of sinners down there. I go to a Bible study on Thursday morning, but we go to our conservative club on Wednesday morning. I kind of got it backwards there. And Diana's always there, and she is wonderful. She always adds so much to the group, and it's good to have conservative ladies. The folks that in Washington, D.C. that were screaming "No Kings," I don't know if y'all caught any of that, are the same people who crowned Kamala I don't know how to say it, Kamala Harris, as their nominee for President of the United States without a single dadgum vote being cast, without a single vote. And then I saw them screaming the other day when they had an actual king on the House floor, screaming for him. We kept saying, "No kings, no kings," but they were crowding the aisle to get a picture with him to shake his dadgum hand. And I had my phone with me, and I know he's a kind of a motorhead. He's got an Aston Martin, but he's a little freaky, I think. They converted it to run off a wine that they've distilled and rotted cheese somehow. I haven't quite figured that out. And his mama gave him, and I said, "Hey, I really like that Aston Martin. I think it's a DB5." And he said, "Oh yeah, my mom, the Queen Mom, gave me that when I was 19 years old." And I was like, "Yeah, well, my mom and dad gave me a lawnmower, so there you go." And then we're told we can't say anything negative, and they bash this president continuously. They've hounded him. They've hounded his family. I was banned from Fox News for a month because I said that that Joe Biden was mentally infirm, that his cognitive. But the real reality is, folks, I'm worried about Republicans right now. They are nowhere near as committed to saving America as Democrats are to destroying it. Y'all need to quit clapping, folks. Let me quit clapping. I want to tell you why. It's just like at the Baptist church. You think that preacher's rounding it up. He's going to do the altar call. We're going to get out of here. And then some knucklehead on the front row just goes, "Amen, amen." And then you know at that point you will never beat the Methodists to the Sizzler. So, thank you. Amen, brother. Yeah, thank you. I don't do the altar call, but I'll sure pass the offering plate, all right? But no, since I was here last, I've been working on some things. They made me chairman of the Doge Committee. I think they just sent me there to die. Thank you. You know, we found over $1 trillion in duplication, and we're doing things a little different under my watch, I guess I should say. We're actually bringing real legislation out. We got legislation to eliminate a lot of the duplication. I have a bill that I passed twice now. It's sitting on Speaker Thune's desk. That desk must be about this small because he must have 100,000 bills piled up on there that he's passed to defund the Taliban. Can you imagine? Every Monday morning, just think of this. There is a pallet of cash that goes to Afghanistan. A pallet of cash. $40 million a week we give to them. If you can imagine that. They own the 3 banks. Any ingress and egress comes out, they take their cut. The Lord only gets 10% with tithe. These people get it all the way, and it's coming right out of your pocket. And these NGOs, I wrote a letter to the president. I was glad to see that. I don't know if he took my advice or the Secretary of State, because we had a great conversation about it. These NGOs are just ripping y'all off. What happens is with an NGO, non-government organization, maybe they were started during Bush 1 or Bush 2, and maybe they originally had a good reason. They were going to feed the hungry children somewhere, and so they have a little bit of money. Well, one of these billionaires, one of these people that's kind of control our country, control our food supplies, control everything about us, they'll see that fund and they'll put $1 million in it. And then you'll see some unelected bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. that has no oversight whatsoever because Congress is too lazy to ask questions. They say, 30 seconds? Is that what that says? Ma'am, I know where you live. Well, thank y'all. I'm Tim Burchett. Thank y'all. I didn't know there was a time limit. I apologize. I'll get over it. NGOs are ripping you off. They put $1 million in there. A bureaucrat in Washington sees that. Then they fund it with your tax dollars. We think over $1 trillion has been stolen from you all through these things. We can do better. Save America Act. I was in the White House with the president. We were standing behind the desk, and he said, "Tim, it was the SAVE Act," and I said, "Change it to Save America. Who could vote against saving America?" And I said, "Mr. President, every dadgum Democrat in Congress could," and they did. They did last night. Look, I'm the product. I'm going to get to the end of it because I know we got more people here. I am the product of the American dream, and the only way to protect America's dream is to show up at these midterms. We need to stand tall, folks. Too many times our preachers won't preach the gospel. We're afraid to speak the truth, and we got to stand up for this country. My mama and daddy were hard-working people. They were real Christians. They weren't bumper sticker Christians. They lived that life. Daddy, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps to go fight. And unlike myself, he was, right, you're good. You can clap for him in heaven. He's fine. But when they did that, Daddy enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. He took the aptitude test. He scored through the roof. They sent Daddy to Georgia Tech to become an officer, and he was afraid he was going to miss the war. So he just didn't take his midterm exams and failed himself out intentionally. 8 weeks later, he was issued a Thompson submachine gun and was going to a little island called Peleliu. The roughest fight of the entire war. His colonel was a man named Chesty Puller. After that, they hit the island of Okinawa on Easter Sunday, April 1st. And after that, they went to China and fought the communists. And then the last 40 years of his life, he went to the University of Tennessee, and I guess he fought the communists there because he was a tough guy. My mama, though, she flew an airplane during the Second World War. Her oldest brother got killed fighting the Nazis. That's what this country was based on. It was built on that. And I know we've already recognized the veterans, but if y'all would stand one more time so we could recognize y'all. As a Christian, I owe the men and women that wore our country's uniform everything I have in my life but my salvation. Every night, I walk out in front of that Capitol and look at that dome, and I get chills, and I think about the people that I'm standing on the shoulders of, and many of them are in this dadgum room. Folks, people have fought and died for this country. We are going to throw it all away. Please, do what you can do. write the checks to these people that are running in this room. Get out and vote. Get people to the polls. Stand up for our dadgum country. There's thousands of graves overseas of men and women that would love to be sitting right here and enjoying what I'm sure was a delicious chicken dinner. So thank y'all so much for the opportunity to be here. God bless y'all. God bless Washington County. And now I have the honor of introducing my good friend Glenn Jacobs. They gave me something to read, but I'm not going to read it because I left it on the table, and I know Glenn. Glenn is the mayor of Knox County. He followed me, and he did a wonderful job. He has worked on things crazy stuff in government, like cutting waste, cutting taxes, looking after our veterans. Folks, he's building housing for veterans, homeless veterans. A lot of people talk about this stuff. Dadgummit, Glenn Jacobs does it. And I'm proud to introduce my good friend, Glenn Jacobs.
I have 5 minutes. You gonna give me the 30-second thing too? Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. So, just give me a privilege here to say something about Tim, though, if you wouldn't mind. So you all have Bud Hulsey up here, right? You know, and all the one-liners. Could you imagine if these guys had been in state government at the same time? My gosh, the improv would have got nothing on the Capitol. Hey, 250 years ago, Thomas Jefferson wrote the most beautiful, impactful, and powerful words ever in a political document. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the right is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those words launched a revolution in this country. They made people question the people's relationship with the government. No longer would people be subjects of a king. We would be citizens in a republic. But even more so, they changed the world because the rest of the world looked at this country and realized that is where humanity should be. One of the most important things that happened during the Constitutional Convention then, 11 years later, was this idea of power corrupts. The framers of the Constitution understood that, and they built safeguards within the Constitution, checks and balances. One of the most important of these is the levels of government and the sovereignty of the states. Great thing that President Trump is doing is he is sending power back to the states. And as great as Tennessee is right now, that's going to make us even greater. And we can truly lead the country if we have the right person leading us. And that person as governor is Marsha Blackburn. Thank you. Earlier, Tim talked about the fight against the income tax. He, Rusty Crowe, also Senator Blackburn. She was actually the leader in that fight. And to this day, it resonates in our state. It's one of the reasons that our state is doing so well economically. In Congress, she has been a leader in implementing President Trump's America First agenda. She's been a leader in fighting illegal immigration. She has been a leader in fighting crime in Memphis. And she has been a leader in pushing back against men in women's sports. Those are all the things that she's done so far. One of the things he talks about as governor is Tennessee being the freest state in the union. And that's really important to me. Because as Tim said, I too am a product of the American dream. Growing up, my family didn't have a whole lot. I found something that I was good at, a niche industry, professional wrestling, and my life has been amazing because I was able to take advantage of my God-given gifts and utilize them to build a life that I wanted to build. So this freedom and liberty thing, it's not just something I believe in, it is in my DNA. And people say, well, you govern a certain way. I don't have a choice. I can't do it any other way. That's all that I know. But the amazing thing is that freedom produces results. And we've seen that in Knox County. We haven't raised property taxes in Knox County in 27 years. Since I've been mayor, our per person spend adjusted for inflation is lower than it was 10 years ago. Our debt per person adjusted for inflation is lower than it was 10 years ago. And what's amazing about that is I follow Tim Burchett, who is an actual fiscal conservative. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, we've seen businesses come to Knox County. We've seen economic opportunity just explode. Our median household income has increased tremendously. Freedom works, ladies and gentlemen. And as the freest state in the union, we will be the greatest state in the union as well. We will be the state that everyone else looks to. Marsha Blackburn will make sure that that happens. But she can't do it alone. She needs all of our help. Please go to marshablackburn.com to see how you can help. Mia Prince is here. Mia, where are you? Mia's in the back. Talk to her. Most of all, don't forget, Election Day is August 6th. Early voting begins July 17th. So please, let's all help Marsha Blackburn make Tennessee America's conservative leader. Thank y'all.
Okay, now I have the honor of introducing John Rose. I'm going to find your bio here, John. But I haven't met you yet, so I look forward to that. Congressman John Rose is a Republican candidate for governor of Tennessee. He's an 8th-generation Tennessee farmer who has owned 2 successful Tennessee businesses, a devoted husband to his wife, Chelsea, a father to 2 boys, and a strong conservative who focuses on what matters most: faith, family, and freedom. I agree with that. Raised on the same farm that his family has worked for 8 generations, John knows what it means to rise early, work hard, and live by your word. The lessons he learned in the fields, responsibility, resilience, and respect for God's creation, have shaped everything he's done in life. In Congress, John is a Trump-endorsed, reliable, no-nonsense conservative who puts Tennessee first. He stood with President Trump to defend our border, protect our children, fight for rural communities, and stand up to the D.C. swamp. Hello and goodbye. Please welcome to the podium, Mr. John Rose. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. I was thinking, how is I going to trim out those 2 minutes? Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you, Ms. Maples, for that very kind introduction. I'm John Rose, and I'm a Christian. I'm a husband to my beautiful wife, Chelsea, who's sitting down here with me today. I'm a father to two great sons, Guy, who is away at summer camp this weekend, and Sam, who is with us tonight. And I'm a farmer and a businessman. And it's currently my great honor and privilege to represent the 6th District of Tennessee in the U.S. House of Representatives, which I've done for the last 7.5 years. And I give all the glory to God when I say that I am blessed to be an 8th-generation Tennessean. And so every morning when I wake up, like this morning, and I'm blessed to get to be on our farm, I reflect upon my ancestors. John and Ann Lancaster, who traveled across the mountains from North Carolina with their 11 children in a wagon with some livestock, and made their way all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, where they represented Halsey. They picked up a deed and then made their way back to Lancaster, Tennessee. A little community at that time didn't exist. They built a cabin there and began to carve out a place on the frontier. When I wake up in the morning and I look out across the landscape and I reflect on that 236-year legacy, I can't help but be in awe of what they faced, the challenges they faced. And blessed, remarkably, that we get to be there today and get to be the custodians, the stewards of that great legacy. But my mind always turns to the future. And I think about what will be there 236 years from now. Could we be so miraculously blessed by God that my descendants might still be there, that Chelsea and I could have descendants that might still be farming that land? But I also think about the rest of the state and the rest of our country, and I wonder about what will they think about us. Will they believe that we all did our part in our time to stand up, to stand solid for what's important for this republic? And it is that thought that motivated me to run for Congress and to now run for governor of Tennessee. Because you see, we have to stand up. We heard the earlier quote from Danielle Goodrich about what it takes to keep the republic going. Eternal vigilance. Will we do our part in our time? So more than a year ago, when I announced I was running for governor and that I would not seek re-election to Congress, I said that day, I'm coming to see you. And Chelsea and I and our team, we've traveled all across Tennessee. I've been to all 95 counties, listening to Tennesseans, because it's not about what I want for the future of Tennessee. It's about what you want. So we've been listening to Tennesseans, asking them questions, answering their unfiltered questions in an unscripted way to see, what is it Tennesseans want? Well, so what have I heard? 3 things stand apart from everything else that I've heard among Tennesseans. Number 1, they want a governor who will listen. Turns out our instincts about that were right. They're tired of politicians who sometimes come from inside the Beltway and come out and give a speech and then go away, but don't listen to what they have to say. Number 2, they want a governor who will apply our conservative Tennessee values, and I like to describe those as faith, family, and freedom, to take on the problems and challenges that Tennessee faces. And then number 3, and this was a little bit of a surprise to me as I travel across Tennessee, they want someone who will fight to stand up for what makes Tennessee special, the unique character and nature of Tennessee. That's our landscape, but also our way of life, our values that are kind of unique to Tennessee, this Tennessee hospitality that we all cherish, the thing that is driving or attracting people from all across this country to stay here. And so those are the things I'm hearing. What are the problems that Tennesseans are talking about? Well, there are many. Of course, it depends a little on where you are in Tennessee. If we were in Shelby County tonight, Memphis, Tennessee, they would tell you the top 3 problems in Memphis are, and I bet some people here can guess what the top 3 problems in Memphis are. Crime, crime, and crime. But as I travel across the street, the state more broadly, and I listen to Tennesseans, I hear that they want a governor who will fight to protect our constitutional rights, our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights. They want someone who will fight to protect the right to worship as each of us see fit. Or in some cases, not to worship at all, if that's what an American wants to do. They want someone who will fight for the right of freedom of the press. They want the right of assembly to be protected so that we can gather together and talk about the issues that are of concern to us and ask for the redress of our grievances. And they want someone who will fight for our Second Amendment rights, the right to keep and bear arms. And they want someone who will fight hard to protect life. These are the things I'm hearing from Tennesseans as I travel across this state. There are 5 other issues that I hear a lot about. Time doesn't allow us to dig deeply into those tonight, but I will tell you they are these: education, infrastructure, think roads, but there are other infrastructure issues that Tennesseans have on their mind. They want someone who will fight for access to health care, particularly in our rural communities. And I think about our rural East Tennessee communities where access to health care is not always what it should be. Number 4, they want someone who will work hard to make sure that we have access to the power, the energy that we need. And thank goodness for President Trump and his all of the above energy policy. And then finally, they want a governor who will work hard to create jobs, to create economic development, to bring opportunity to Tennessee. These are the things that Tennesseans are talking about. Now, as I wind up here and I tell you what Tennesseans don't want, as we think about economic development, they don't want this state taking $30 million of your money and recruiting one of the most woke companies in all of America to come to Tennessee. So they're upset about us giving Starbucks $30 million to come to Tennessee. You know, what could we do with $30 million? We could give 50,000 to 600 Tennessee coffee shops. That might be a good thing. We could give the $30 million back to you. We could use it to make our schools better. We could use it to make our roads better. We need a leader who knows when to say when. We need a leader who can say no to things like that. And these are the kinds of things that I'm hearing from Tennesseans. I see that my time is about to expire. And so as I wind up tonight, I would just say this. I'm John Rose. I'm running for Congress. I'm a Christian, a father, a husband, a farmer, and a businessman. And I'm running for governor. I'm sorry. Thank you. And I hope you'll give me a chance to earn your vote. And I do ask for your vote. And thank you for correcting my mistake. Good to be with you tonight.
Oh my goodness, we got a few folks running for governor here in Tennessee, don't we? And I don't like to get too political, but here I am. So I have the honor of introducing to you a gentleman and his lovely wife Denise, who have become sweet friends in the short amount of time I've known them, and that's our other gubernatorial candidate, Representative Monty Fritz. I've got to tell you this man, I've prayed with this man, and his prayers are real. And I know that he spent many, many months praying before he announced that he was going to be running for governor. And he's following the word of the Lord in his choice to be in this position. And I know that's what we're all called to do. When we listen to God, then we know we're taking the footsteps we're meant to. We never know really clearly where they're taking us, but we know if we're listening that we're on our way to the right place that God has put before us. I met Monty because I'm actively involved, as you might have heard, with the Make America Healthy movement before we had a Maha name for it. I was one of these folks in New York City in the 90s saying, come on guys, you've got to take control of your own health. Let's not give it all away to doctors and people that maybe don't know about nutrition, don't know about the importance of breathing, don't know about the importance of yoga, of exercise, of things that probably most of you have learned a lot about in the last few years. And I did a lot of magazine articles where I would talk about acupuncture, and everyone kind of laughed at me and thought it was a little odd. And the president used to say, oh, she's into the star, the moon, the sun, and she loves to work out, though. And now here, my dream of all dreams was to be able to bring Bobby Kennedy, Secretary Kennedy, and Donald together at that moment where they came together on stage with the hopes that, yes, we pray we can unite the people of this country, which is so important. And I know that's important for you, Monty, is just what you are doing for our country, for this state. You with Bud Halsey, who I'm so happy to hear your story and have you speak. You brought this bill forward on geoengineering before any other state did. So thank you so much for presenting that to Monty so he could take it all the way. And that brought a lot of us folks that used to live in California in the film business here to do interviews with the folks like Daniela and Monty, who are having an impact, that care about the next level. And Monty is going to be seen, like I said, in People versus Poison film that I'm helping produce. And it's just bringing awareness what's really happening right underneath our nose and in our grass and in our soil and in our air. So at the Global Wellness Forum, we're going to be working a lot more with you here. So God bless you, and come up here and share your heart with us, Representative Monty Fritz.
Hey, y'all gonna get me in a Stetson tonight because, we're marginalized some with people's words about how we're maybe not worthy to get to run for this office. I think that people have forgotten that our founders didn't intend people to run for office based on their net worth. It's the content of what's in us and what God blessed us with. And so I want to warn the front tables with something. Everybody else has had a timer. Dane Chisholm's a friend of mine, and he's an 82nd Airborne guy, and he understands ordnance. And he told me to wear 2 of these. If this one starts to blink fast because I've gone over time, I would suggest you all cover up on the front row. That might be possible. Hey, about this time with the time delta, in 1944, we had men on ships and in landing craft who didn't want to be there. But by God, they had answered the call because they felt like that they were being called to defend this nation against an evil in Europe. And you all know what happened on D-Day as those men stormed that beach. They helped to perpetuate to us the ability for someone worthy like me to stand before you and ask for your vote to be the governor of the state of Tennessee. They were bold men. None of them wanted to be there on those landing craft. They were nauseated by the conditions around them, I'm sure, as many of us in politics are nauseated sometimes by the conditions around us. But I'm telling you, my friends, if you want someone to charge into the dust and challenge some of the issues that we have, you have but one choice for governor for the state of Tennessee, and his last name happens to be Fritz. I think the call is important. I think, as my friend Denise Sibley said, we are watchmen on the wall. If you look back in culture, God did assign men to stand on the wall and to call out the evil that He sent upon them. That's important in Ezekiel 33. Because the sin of the people brought those foreign armies, and God put a watchman there to call it out. Oftentimes we're reluctant to call out those evils today because it's politically unacceptable or incorrect. I think it's time that we send someone to lead in Nashville, Tennessee, that will call out some of the problems we have. I agree with my friend Congressman Rose that the $30 million to going to Starbucks is a wrong thing. Where we might disagree is this: I don't think that you people in Washington County and we people in Roane County ought to be providing corporate welfare for anybody coming into the state of Tennessee. I think that it's important for us to be a watchman on the wall and call out the fact that our budget in the great state of Tennessee, the sweetest soil that God ever made, over a 6-year period of time grew by 59%. That is not small government. That is not fiscally responsible. I stand before you, my friends, someone that God has blessed. Again, perhaps unworthy. Perhaps that person that some folks might say is punching up. I will tell you, my friends, I don't have a great desire to hold another office. The titles that I have held please me fine. Papa is the greatest. Denise and I, my wife for 42 years, have 4 grandchildren. I can't think of a higher title than that. But I will be your servant. And as I've fought for you before, I will fight for you again. And friends, we are at a war. It is not like our soldiers on D-Day faced that day here in Tennessee, but it is a cultural war. We live in a time when weak males have allowed Islam to start to radicalize itself in our state of Tennessee. And you won't hear the politicians talk about it. They're afraid they'll lose $1 or a dime. It's time we call that out. We live in a state of a Christian heritage, and I intend to lead and to serve from a Christian heritage position. God give me the opportunity to lead some things. My friend Marla mentioned our geoengineering bill. Bud really should get the credit for it. I've said that for a long time. He is a great Tennessean. He is a Renaissance man. But we got to introduce the prayer resolution into Tennessee because I'm telling you, my friends here in Washington County, looking you dead in the eye and telling you this, we can't even elect our way out of this. We can't spend our way out of this. We cannot even legislate ourselves completely out of this. We need a move of God in Tennessee. We need a move of repentance amongst God's men and women in this state so that we'll realize not only those things like the vulgarity of transgender surgeries and abortion, but also those budget growths where we take 4% on every dollar you spend on groceries and build the Titans new stadiums. Those are profane things, and those are evils that we must stop. I had the opportunity, I'm the only Republican running that has actually successfully passed legislation to support your Second Amendment rights in the state of Tennessee. That is a fact. I am the only Republican running for governor in the state of Tennessee that has moved to push back on the Obergefell opinion to protect marriage in the state of Tennessee. I am the only Republican in the state of Tennessee running for governor that passed legislation that enhanced the penalty on criminal illegals when they commit violent crimes to lock them up until they'll never see the sun again. I'm the only Republican running for governor in the state of Tennessee that took on the pornography industry just this year. And it is now the law in the state of Tennessee that strip clubs and purveyors of pornography have to put postings up warning, cautioning that by participating in that, you may be increasing the frequency of human trafficking, sexual assault, and rape. In a time when we spend your money to cover up the improprieties in D.C., somebody in Tennessee's been fighting against it. I'll ask you, my friends, I'll plead with you, don't D.C. my Tennessee. Send a combat leader. Send in the cavalry. Let me work for you. Let me fight for you as I fought. We've had enough of the weak, the inept in Tennessee. Let's bring our state back to what it was. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, are we inspired yet? Okay, thank you so much, Monty Fritz. Appreciate you. All right, now I have the opportunity to introduce our U.S. representative that I know you all love, Diana Harshberger. You are so lovely. It was just a pleasure. Where are you? I see you. No? I'll see you soon. She's a member of the Republican Party and a strong supporter of President Donald Trump, whom we all know quite well. First elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 2020, she succeeded Congressman Phil Rowe and won re-election in 2022 and 2024. A member of both the Freedom Caucus and the Republican Study Committee, she is the only woman in Tennessee's congressional delegation. Yes, we need more of you. Pleasure to introduce this lovely lady to you now.
I may get your microphone out in a minute and walk around. Can you see me from behind the podium? Listen, it's great to be here, and I want you to know this from the bottom of my heart, and I say this every time I talk. It's one of the greatest honors of my lifetime to be your representative to the United States House of Representatives, because you should never do this job unless you are called of God to do it. And I agree with everything that my colleagues have said tonight. You know, Tim and I are buddies, and there's some fun stuff that we do in that Conservative Opportunity Society, but we get to hear speakers that nobody else does. They don't invite them to the conference to speak. And we learn things that we would never learn if we didn't go to that. And Monty's right, and so is Bud. There's so many things under fire. It'd take me all night just to tell you some of the things that we're working on. But look, we live in the second greatest district in the whole country, ladies and gentlemen. People are moving in because they want to come to the land of the free. And if you are, how many of you are not from here, but you chose to come live here? Raise your hand. So you see, this happens in every one of my counties. And Lordy, you know, even in Hancock, I'm like, there's no good way in or out. And if anybody's here from Hancock, you know what I'm talking about. No disparity there, but They either gotta be in the witness protection program or they're desperate to leave a blue state. And I love Hancock, so, being a conservative district does not save this country, but voting like one does. And I tell everybody, I've told my son when he got elected to the state senate, I said, you better be able to defend every vote that you take and tell your constituents and the people who elected you why you voted that way. And yes, I can defend my votes. And I listen to you. I go out and talk to you. You call me. And so I want to make you proud, but I want to save this country. And I'm telling you, we're on the cusp. Primaries decide who governs you, and general elections will decide how far they can go. And it matters who governs in every spot in local, state, and federal governments. And this is the 250th anniversary of our great country. And our freedom wasn't guaranteed. And we had many generations who fought for that freedom. And I always taught my son, I said, you be good to those veterans, because every time one of them passes away, it's like a library closes. And they will not get to tell the stories that they have. And pinning over 5,000 Vietnam era veterans and listening to some of the Afghanistan and Iraq War veterans and even Korean and World War II veterans, it's an honor to listen to their stories. Because that's what made America, America. It is a bastion of freedom and opportunity and self-governance. And it's the greatest country the world has ever known. And we want to keep it that way. What I want to tell you is what's really at stake. If you only knew what we had done. I didn't get off the floor and out of some meetings last night until way after 9 or 10, and you start your day before 7. There's a lot going on in this country. There's a lot of things I could tell you, a lot of things I can't tell you, but what's really at stake is the direction of our country. All you have to do is turn the news on and look at what happened in New Jersey. Look at some of the even far left progressives that are beating the leftist Democrats. Listen, they want to grow government beyond recognition. They want to weaken our borders. They want to take our freedoms, rewrite our values. And if you don't think it can reach us here, it already has. I just got a report that the protesters are over at the garage right now, protesting what we're standing here for freedom and preaching to save our country. And they're over there saying, you're a bunch of bigots. And the only thing standing between what we know as America and what we want it to become is you. Is you getting out to vote. It's your voice, your vote. And I'm going to give you a hard truth. Do you know what the greatest factor to saving our country is? It's low turnout. Second reddest district in the whole country, and I have some of the lowest turnout in 95 counties. You know why? Apathy. You all think it can't happen here. You think it'll be okay, we'll have a Republican, don't worry about it. That's why I moved there. That's exactly what some of these other states thought too. Look at Texas. It can absolutely happen, ladies and gentlemen. So here's my challenge is don't just vote. You lead, you call your neighbor, you call your friend, call that person that says, my vote don't count, go get them. I have my friend Marionette Miller Meeks that won by 6 votes. It matters. Your vote matters. And when you push that button, you better look at your voting record. Make sure they're conservative because we're that close to losing our country. They're optimistic about the midterms, and look, I love our speaker. Mike is a good man. He's a godly man. And I'm honored that he trusts me to give him wise counsel. He's got a big job. Marla knows. She was married to the president, for heaven's sakes. He's a hard man to handle. And I'm just saying, you know, my anniversary day, and I am married 44 years to my husband Bob back there. Yeah, but what was that joke a minute ago about, somebody said something about being married. Tim, did you say a joke about being married? Somebody did. I told Bob, I said, yeah, you better. But anyway, I say, it's no different. They're like, how do you talk to the president? How do you interact with him? I said, well, God, it's just like talking to Bobby. He always says no. You can't get it, you can't do it. And you got to have an act in order to get him to yes. And that's what we do when we, you know, the president's a smart man, but he wants to know why you think the way you think. And I like the fact that Mike has a favor of God on him to where he can go in and he can counsel the president with wise counsel. So I said all that to say this. I serve with Tim, I serve with John. I know Monty's a good man. I love to hear you talk about the Constitution. So is Bud, so is Rusty. Listen, we're in the fight of our lives, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to grow this party, don't keep telling these young people you don't need them. When they turn 18, they need to be able to vote. Welcome them into the fold. Don't make it harder than it should be. And just continue to pray. Pray like you never have prayed, because freedom isn't free. And we got to go back Monday and start the battle all over again. And I'll start doing my coffees with the Congresswoman again after the election because of all the national security threats and things like that. They told us not to do it. That's why you hadn't seen a lot of me. And I had knee surgery last week, but I'm still hopping. Look, it matters who governs. Do your due diligence. And all I can say is God bless you. And God bless Tennessee. And God bless the United States of America.
Thank you all. Do we all feel like we know what we have to do to go home and hopefully hand down freedom for the next generation to do the same? I'll just close on a few notes. So what can we do? We started out the night with if it's a republic, if we can keep it. So what can we do? At the state level, we can enforce real balanced budgets, cap spending growth, build reserves instead of expanding programs, and increase transparency. At the county level, right here in Washington County, demand balanced budgets every year, avoid unnecessary debt. At the city needs to hear that too, because I was at a city commission meeting last night where they're talking about an aquatic center that's going to raise our property taxes, which I spoke against because it's going to end up costing us between $50 and $100 million in a down economy. We need to prioritize pay-as-you-go spending, require justification for every increase. And what must the county GOP do? This is where it becomes real, because there is something I understand. So I had a conversation with the media recently, and I asked, why are you all of a sudden reporting on the healthcare monopoly? You haven't been doing that for the last couple of years. And his answer was simple. When the news stops reporting on what matters, when it ignores what is relevant because of money, it becomes irrelevant. And when they lose viewers, they lose what they sell. The same is true in politics. When a party campaigns on fiscal conservatism, limited government, lower taxation, but fails to deliver, we lose voters, we lose trust, and eventually we become irrelevant. So the answer is not to rebrand, the answer is not to message better, the answer is simple: deliver. Deliver on minimal taxation, deliver on fiscal discipline, deliver on limited government. Because the best way for us to lose power is to say one thing and to govern another way. That brings us back to the moral question. A government that continuously spends beyond its means is no different than a father who racks up debt and leaves it to his children. It's not just bad policy, that's bad stewardship. The founding fathers built this republic on a moral foundation, and when that foundation weakens, government rises to take its place. When government becomes the highest authority, rights no longer come from God, they come from those in power. And what government gives, government can take away. So what would the founders say? they would say, you're not facing a temporary downturn, you are facing a test. Because conservatism, true conservatism, was never about managing decline. It was about conserving the system itself, limited government, individual liberty, personal responsibility, constitutional order. So will we last another 250 years? It's not a question of fate, it's a question of choice. We can continue down a path of expanding debt, growing dependency, centralized control, or we can choose restraint, responsibility, accountability, and putting America first, not just in words, but in actions. Democrats, socialists are not an option. They cannot conserve a system they don't understand. They only seek to expand it beyond recognition. It must be us, the Republicans, but not just in name, in action. So the question is not just will America last 250 years? The real question is, what will we do, and will we do what is required to keep it? Because the answer, just as it was in 1787, does not lie in Washington, D.C. It lies in states like Tennessee. It lies in counties like ours. It lies in whether we are willing to demand discipline and deliver it. And Franklin's warning still stands. It's a republic if we can keep it. Thank you all. I'm Danielle Goodrich, Chair of Washington County Republican Party, and I'm blessed to have all of you here with us tonight. Let's go and get to work and be eternally vigilant. Thank you so much. God bless you.